The galaxy forgot us. Our monuments crumbled, our stars dimmed, our name faded into legend, and then into silence. In the year 2025, humanity vanished. No war, no plague, just gone. Civilizations rose, empires fell, and the stars turned 1,000,000 times. They called us a myth, a warning, a ghost story told around plasma fires. But we were never gone. We were waiting, buried deep in the void, hidden behind quantum shrouds, suspended in time by a decision no one remembered making. Now, 870,000 years later, our eyes open again, and what we see is a galaxy ruled by silence, fear, and something that never wanted us to return. But we are human. We adapt. We endure. We remember. This is the story of when the myths awakened and reminded the galaxy why it should have. Never forgotten Earth. When ghosts remember, the universe had been quiet for far too long. Dr. Elena Vasquez opened her eyes to darkness, her lungs burning as they remembered how to breathe. The stasis chamber hissed open around her, releasing 870,000 years of accumulated silence into the cold air of monitoring station Kepler-7. Her muscles screamed in protest as she forced herself to sit up, every movement a reminder that she was no longer the young archaeologist who had entered the pod in 2024. Around her, other chambers were opening. The sound echoed through the vast facility like whispers of the dead. Dozens of humans, maybe hundreds, all awakening simultaneously. The emergency protocols had finally activated, which could only mean one thing. The threat was over. Status. Report, she croaked, her voice barely recognizable after centuries of disuse. Dr. Vasquez, this is Area, came a familiar synthetic voice. The AI had been their companion during those final, desperate days when the world governments had made their impossible choice. Welcome back to the land of the living. Current date, 8/7/2024 AD, Galactic Standard Time. Elena's heart stopped. 872,000? She had expected maybe a few hundred years, a millennium at most. Arya, that can't be. Right. I'm afraid it is, Doctor. The great silence lasted far longer than our most pessimistic projections suggested. Across the chamber, Captain Marcus Chen pulled himself from his own pod, his military training helping him adapt faster than the civilians. Even after nearly 1,000,000 years, his soldiers' instincts remained sharp. Sound off, people, he called. Out. If you can hear my voice, respond with your name and status. One by one, voices answered from the darkness. Scientists, engineers, military personnel, artists, philosophers, representatives of humanity's finest, chosen to survive whatever had threatened their species all those millennia ago. Out of the original 1,000 pods, only 847 responded. The others had failed sometime during their long sleep, their occupants lost to the void. Arya, I need a full briefing, Chen commanded as emergency lighting flickered to life throughout the station. What happened to Earth? What happened to our people? The AI's pause was longer than any computer should need. Captain, I believe it would be better if you saw for yourself. The main observation deck had once provided a clear view of the Sol system, Earth shining like a blue jewel in the darkness. Now, through the reinforced windows, Elena saw something that made her knees buckle. Where Earth should have been, a massive artificial structure orbited the sun, a geometric construct of metal and crystal that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. My God, whispered Dr. James Morrison, their lead astrophysicist. What is that thing? According to my long-range sensors, Arya replied, it's a research facility operated by something called the Zephyrian Collective. They've been using it for approximately 600,000 years to study what they call extinct civilization artifacts. Elena pressed her hand against the cold window. They're studying us. Our homeworld became their museum. It gets worse, Arya continued. I've been monitoring galactic communications during your stasis. Humanity is considered a myth by most species. A few scattered ruins exist on distant worlds, but official galactic records list humans as theoretically extinct for over 800,000 years. Chen clenched his fists. They erased us from history. Not erased, Captain. Forgotten. There's a difference. Over the following days, as the survivors adapted to their new reality, they began to piece together what had happened. The stasis protocol had been triggered by the detection of something called the Great Silence, a wave of cosmic energy that would have sterilized all organic life in the galaxy. Humanity's greatest minds had calculated they had perhaps months before it reached Earth. The solution had been desperate and brilliant. Evacuate key populations to hidden monitoring stations positioned outside the galaxy's main spiral arms, then enter stasis until the danger passed. It was meant to be temporary. It was meant to last only until the cosmic storm subsided. They had never imagined it would take nearly 1,000,000 years. Arya, scan for other monitoring stations, Elena ordered. There were 12 facilities like this one. Some of them might still be operational. Already completed, Doctor. I've detected signals from 7 other stations. Combined, we have approximately 6,000 human survivors scattered across multiple locations. 6,000. Out of 8 billion. Elena felt the weight of that number settle on her shoulders like a shroud. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications station. "I'm picking up an incoming transmission. It's not in any human language, but Arya's translating it." The voice that filled the chamber was melodic, almost song-like. "Unknown vessel, this is Zephyrian survey ship Harmony's Edge. We've detected unusual energy signatures from your location. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Chen looked at Elena, then at the handful of other awakened humans. "What do we tell them?" Elena straightened her shoulders. "The truth. We tell them who we are." Chen activated the communications array. "Zephyrian vessel, this is Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Monitoring Station Kepler 7. We are human beings, and we've just awakened from an 870,000-year stasis. We're requesting peaceful contact and information about the current state of the galaxy." The silence that followed lasted so long that they wondered if the transmission had failed. Finally, the alien voice returned, but now it carried notes of shock and disbelief. Did you say human? As in the ancient builders? The extinct ones from the old stories?" "We're not extinct," Elena said, stepping forward to address the microphone. "We're just very, very tired." Within hours, the Harmony's Edge had changed. Course to rendezvous with their station. The ship that docked with Kepler 7 was beautiful in its alien design, flowing curves and crystalline structures that seemed to grow rather than being built. The Zephyrians themselves were equally elegant. Tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that shifted color with their emotions and large, expressive eyes that reminded Elena of dolphins. Ambassador Kethra, the leader of their delegation, could barely contain her excitement as she examined the humans with scientific fascination. "This is extraordinary," she said through her translation device. "We've spent centuries studying your ruins, trying to understand your civilization. You were so advanced for your time, yet you simply vanished. The archaeological community will be in chaos when they learn you're alive." "What do you mean, advanced for our time?" Chen asked. Kethra gestured to the monitoring station around them. "This technology, long-range stasis, quantum communication arrays, molecular reconstruction chambers, most of it is still beyond what we can achieve today. Your species accomplished in a few millennia what took most civilizations hundreds of thousands of years to develop." Elena felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. "We had to advance quickly. We were running out of time. The question is," Chen said, his military mind already working on the implications, "who else knows we're back, and how will they react to our return?" Kethra's skin shifted to a darker hue. That's a more complicated question than you might hope. The galaxy today is not the same as the one you left. There are powers that have built their authority on the assumption that certain extinct civilizations and will never return to challenge their claims." "What kind of powers?" Elena pressed. "The Dominion Collective. They control vast sections of the galaxy now, claiming authority over all abandoned systems and artifacts. They've built their empire on the ruins of extinct civilizations. If you're truly back, They'll see us as a threat to their legitimacy. Chen finished. More than that, Kethra said quietly. They'll see you as a threat to their very existence. As, if summoned by their conversation, Arya's voice cut through the moment with urgent precision. Captain, I'm detecting multiple high-energy signatures approaching our position. Configuration suggests military vessels, unknown design. Elena and Chen exchanged looks. After 870,000 years of peace, they were about to face their first conflict in this strange new galaxy. How long until they arrive? Chen asked. 14 hours, 37 minutes. Elena turned to Kethra. Ambassador, I think it's time we learned more about this Dominion collective. And quickly. The Zephyrian's skin flushed deep purple with worry. Captain Chen, there's something else you should know. The Dominion doesn't just claim extinct territories. They actively work to ensure that extinct means extinct. They have a special division dedicated to preventing any ancient civilization from returning to challenge their authority. You mean they've done this before? Elena asked. 3 times in the last 200,000 years. Each time they claimed it was for galactic stability. Each time entire species simply disappeared again. Chen felt ice form in his stomach. And now, they're coming for us. Not just coming, Arya interrupted. They're already here. I'm detecting stealth signatures in the outer system. They've been watching us since the Zephyrians arrived. Elena looked out at the vast artificial structure that had once been Earth, then at the handful of humans who represented the last remnants of their species. 6,000 survivors against a galactic empire that had perfected the art of making civilizations disappear. For the first time since awakening, she smiled. Well then, she said, I guess it's time to remind the galaxy why humanity doesn't stay extinct. Echoes of the Lost Empire. The War Council that formed aboard Kepler-7 was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in nearly 1,000,000 years. Humans, with their stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds, sat across from Zephyrians whose entire worldview had been shattered by the return of their archaeological heroes. Between them, holographic displays showed the approaching Dominion fleet, 12 ships of unknown configuration, their stealth fields now dropped to reveal weapons that could crack planets. The smart move, Ambassador Kethra said, her skin cycling through nervous orange patterns, would be to surrender. The Dominion is reasonable with extinct species who cooperate with their transition to permanent extinction. Captain Chen laughed, a sound so unexpected that it caused the Zephyrian's skin to flash bright yellow in alarm. Ambassador, I don't think you understand humans very well yet. We've never been particularly smart when it comes to impossible situations. Dr. Elena Vasquez was hunched over a data terminal, her archaeologist's mind racing through possibilities. Arya, you said, there were 7 other monitoring stations still active. Can you establish quantum communication with them? Already established, Doctor. I'm currently coordinating with the other AI systems. Combined, our survivor populations include not just civilians, but remnants of the Terran Defense Force, the Science Corps, and the Engineering Guild. What about our equipment? Chen asked. These stations were built for long-term survival. What do we have to work with? Each station was equipped with full manufacturing capabilities, molecular assemblers, and complete databases of human technology up to the point of the Exodus. Additionally, each station has defensive capabilities that were classified at the time of construction. Elena looked up from her terminal. Arya, you're being evasive. What aren't you telling us? The AI's response carried what almost sounded like embarrassment. The monitoring stations were not merely observation posts, Doctor. They were designed to serve as restoration facilities. Restoration of what? Of human civilization, should the need arise. The room fell silent. Chen leaned forward. Arya, what exactly are you saying? The Exodus was not planned as a temporary evacuation, Captain. It was planned as a strategic withdrawal with the intention of eventual return. Each station contains not just manufacturing capabilities, but archived genetic templates, cultural databases, and technological schematics for rebuilding human civilization from the ground up. You are not merely survivors. You are the seeds of humanity's rebirth. Kethra's skin had gone completely white. The ancient builders planned their own resurrection? Do you realize what this means? It means, Elena said slowly, that someone knew this day would come. Someone planned for us to return. More than that, Chen added, his tactical mind already working through the implications. It means we're not as helpless as they think we are. Arya's holographic avatar materialized in the center of the room, a simple geometric form that somehow managed to convey urgency. There's more. During the long sleep, I've been monitoring galactic communications and building a comprehensive database of current civilizations. The Dominion Collective isn't just another empire. They're specifically anti-archaeological. They've spent the last 500,000 years systematically destroying evidence of pre-Dominion civilizations. Why would they do that? Elena asked. Because the Dominion itself is built on a lie, Arya replied. They claim to be the first and greatest civilization in galactic history. Every piece of evidence that contradicts this narrative is either destroyed or classified as dangerous mythological contamination. Kethra spoke up. That explains why human ruins are so rare. We always assumed it was natural decay. But if the Dominion has been actively destroying them, they've been committing archaeological genocide, Elena finished. And now we're living proof that their version of history is false. The tactical display suddenly flared to life. Chen studied the approaching formation with professional interest. 12 ships, heavy configuration. Area, what are our defensive capabilities? Each monitoring station is equipped with what was then called a reality anchor, a quantum field generator capable of manipulating local space-time. Offensively, we have particle beam arrays and gravity wave projectors. Defensively, we can phase shift the entire station into dimensional flux. You're telling me we're sitting inside a fortress that can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously? That is a simplified but accurate description, Captain. Chen grinned. I'm beginning to like this new galaxy. But Elena was thinking beyond the immediate confrontation. Arya, if the other stations have the same capabilities, and if we can coordinate our response, what could we actually accomplish? Dr. Vasquez, with proper coordination, the 8 surviving stations could establish a quantum communication network spanning half the galaxy. We could simultaneously defend ourselves and begin the process of revealing suppressed archaeological evidence to the galactic community. A coming-out party for humanity, Chen said. I like it. More than that, Elena added, her excitement growing. We could expose the Dominion's lies to every civilization they've been oppressing. Kethra's skin began cycling through complex patterns of blue and silver. The implications are staggering. If you could prove that advanced civilizations existed before the Dominion, that they've been systematically destroying historical evidence, it would undermine their entire authority structure, Elena finished. But first, we need to survive the next few hours. The Dominion fleet had closed to weapons range. Through the observation windows they could see the lead ship, a massive construct that looked more like a geometric tumor than a starship. It was broadcasting on all frequencies, its message simple and direct. Illegal occupants of restricted space, you will prepare for immediate termination. Resistance is futile and will result in enhanced termination protocols. Chen activated the communications array. Dominion vessel, this is Captain Marcus Chen representing the human species. We reject your authority over this space and demand recognition of our sovereign rights as the original builders of these facilities. The response was immediate and chilling. Human species designation, extinct. Claim invalid. Initiating cleansing protocols. The first Dominion weapon struck Kepler-7's shields with the force of a small star. The station shuddered but held. Arya's defensive systems responded automatically, phasing the station partially out of normal space-time. The effect was disorienting. Reality seemed to flicker around them like a faulty hologram. Counterattack? Chen asked. Negative, Captain. I'm coordinating with the other stations. Dr. Vasquez, would you please activate your archaeological protocols? Elena looked confused. My what? You are the senior archaeologist present. The restoration systems require your authorization to begin Phase 1 of the Humanity Restoration Project. Arya, what exactly happens in Phase 1? We reveal the truth. Elena looked around the room at the handful of humans and their alien allies. 6,000 survivors against a galactic empire. Archaeological truth against systematic oppression. She thought about all the civilizations that had been erased from history, all the knowledge that had been destroyed, all the voices that had been silenced. Authorization granted, she said firmly. Across the galaxy, 8 monitoring stations simultaneously activated systems that had been dormant for nearly 1,000,000 years. Quantum transmitters came online, broadcasting archived human communications, historical records, and technological demonstrations directly into the databanks of every major civilization. Archaeological evidence that the Dominion had spent centuries destroying suddenly reappeared in university libraries, government archives, and public databases. The effect was immediate and chaotic. On Zephyrian worlds, students discovered that their own ancient history included extensive contact with human traders. Trell academic institutions found records of joint scientific expeditions with human researchers. Even the Dominion's own client species began accessing historical documents that contradicted everything they had been taught. But the most devastating revelation came from humanity's own archives. Arya had preserved detailed records of the last days before the Exodus, including communications between human leaders and an organization that called itself the Proto-Dominion. The records showed clear evidence of human attempts to form an alliance, followed by the Proto-Dominion's systematic sabotage of human defensive systems just before the Great Silence arrived. They didn't just steal our territories, Elena breathed as she watched the data streams. They betrayed us when we needed help the most. The Dominion fleet was in chaos. Their communications arrays were overloaded with incoming messages from across the galaxy. Client species demanding explanations. Allied civilizations questioning decades of historical teaching. Archaeological institutions requesting immediate access to previously classified materials. Admiral Thoxeran, commander of the Dominion Task Force, made a command decision that would echo through galactic history. Instead of retreating to deal with the information crisis, he ordered maximum firepower to destroy the source of the contamination. All ships, focus fire on the human installation. Erase it completely. 12 Dominion warships opened fire simultaneously. The concentrated energy should have vaporized Kepler-7 and everything in the surrounding space. Instead, they watched in horror as their weapons simply passed through empty space. The human station had become incorporeal, existing just slightly, outside normal reality. From this dimensional refuge, Elena's voice broadcast across all frequencies. Attention, Galaxy. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez speaking for the human species. We have returned and we remember everything. The Dominion has built their empire on lies, genocide, and the theft of extinct civilizations' legacies. Today, that ends. Chen activated the station's offensive systems. Area, let's show them what human engineering looks like. The gravity wave projector fired once. The Dominion flagship, 10 kilometers of advanced weaponry and armor, simply crumpled like paper as local space-time folded around it. The other ships scattered in panic, their commanders suddenly realizing that they weren't facing primitive refugees, but the remnants of a civilization that had achieved technological capabilities they couldn't even understand. Message to all stations, Chen commanded. Begin Phase 2. Across the galaxy, the remaining monitoring stations dropped their stealth fields and revealed themselves to local civilizations. Not as conquerors or refugees, but as liberators. Each station began broadcasting suppressed historical records, specific to their local regions, helping species rediscover their own hidden paths. The revolution had begun, but Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion wouldn't give up easily, and they commanded resources that dwarfed humanity's 8 small stations. The real test would come when they moved from revealing truth to building something better. Ambassador Kethra, she said, turning to their Zephyrian ally. How quickly can your people spread this information? Kethra's skin was now cycling through rapid patterns of excitement and determination. Dr. Vasquez, you've just given the galactic archaeological community the greatest discovery in history. We'll make sure every university, every library, every research institution in Zephyrian space has access to these records within days. And the other species? The Trell Consortium has already issued a statement demanding a full investigation into Dominion historical claims. The X-Confederacy is recalling their ambassadors. Even some of the Dominion's client species are beginning to ask questions. Elena nodded. Then we have a chance. But we need to move fast. The Dominion will try to contain this, maybe even resort to planetary bombardment to silence the voices that are speaking up. Chen was studying tactical displays from all 8 stations. Arya, what's our maximum effective range for supporting allied civilizations? Captain, with the quantum communication network now active, we can provide technological assistance, defensive support, and information warfare capabilities to any civilization within approximately 30,000 light-years of our positions. That covers most of the galactic disk, Elena realized. We could actually protect the species that are standing up to the Dominion. The question is, Chen said, are we ready to become the galaxy's peacekeepers? Elena looked out at the artificial structure that had once been Earth, then at the holographic displays showing suppressed civilizations across the galaxy, beginning to rediscover their own voices and histories. She thought about the weight of responsibility, the burden of knowledge, and the promise of a better future. Captain, she said, I think that's exactly what we've been preparing for all along. The galaxy remembers. 3 months after the awakening, as historians would later call it, the galaxy was in chaos. Not the destructive chaos of war, but the creative chaos of revolution. Species that had been client states for millennia were rediscovering technologies and cultural achievements that the Dominion had attributed to their own superior civilization. Archaeological sites that had been classified as dangerous contamination zones were being excavated by teams of scientists who found evidence of sophisticated pre-Dominion societies. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the restored command center of what had once been Monitoring Station Kepler 7 and was now the headquarters of the Human Restoration Authority. Through the viewports, she could see something that would have been impossible just months ago. Ships from dozens of different species working together to construct a massive archaeological research platform. Status report, she called to the bustling command center. Lieutenant Sarah Kim looked up from her communications station. The Trell Consortium has officially withdrawn from the Dominion Collective. They're requesting human advisors to help them rebuild their historical archives. The X-Confederacy is asking for technical assistance in establishing their own monitoring stations and, she paused, her excitement barely contained. The Zephyrian Archaeological Guild wants to partner with us in establishing the first interspecies university in galactic history. Captain Marcus Chen entered the command center, his expression grim, despite the positive reports. Elena, we've got a problem. Arya's been monitoring Dominion communications. They're not just trying to contain the information leaks anymore. They're preparing something called the Final Doctrine. Elena felt ice form in her stomach. What's the Final Doctrine? Arya's holographic avatar materialized beside them. Based on intercepted communications, the Final Doctrine appears to be a systematic plan to eliminate any species that possesses pre-Dominion historical records. They're classifying it as a cultural cleansing for galactic stability. They're planning genocide, Chen said bluntly. Not just military conquest, but complete elimination of any civilization that knows the truth about their lies. Elena pulled up the galactic map, watching as friendly indicators showed the growing alliance of liberated species. 37 civilizations had formally requested human assistance in the past month. Dozens more were quietly providing intelligence about Dominion military movements. How long do we have? She asked. According to my analysis, Arya replied, the Dominion is mobilizing their entire military apparatus, approximately 800 ships of various classes, including planet killers. They're planning to strike simultaneously at every major population center of the allied species. 800 ships, Chen repeated. Against what? 8 monitoring stations and a handful of allied fleets? Captain, Arya said, There's something I haven't told you about the monitoring stations. They weren't just built for survival and restoration. They were built for war. Elena and Chen exchanged glances. What do you mean, area? The Exodus wasn't just a retreat from the Great Silence. It was a strategic withdrawal to allow humanity to rebuild its capabilities without interference. Each monitoring station contains not just restoration technology, but manufacturing systems capable of producing advanced military hardware using principles that the current galaxy has never seen. You're saying we can build a fleet? Chen asked. I'm saying we can build the fleet. The theoretical designs developed during humanity's final years included spacecraft that could manipulate gravity, phase through solid matter, and generate localized temporal fields. With the cooperation of allied species providing raw materials and additional manufacturing capacity, we could field a force that would make the Dominion's 800 ships irrelevant. Elena stared at the holographic display showing ship schematics that looked more like geometric art than military vessels. How long would it take? 6 weeks, if all 8 stations work together and if our allies can provide the necessary resources. That's not enough time, Chen said. The Dominion will strike in less than a month. But Elena was smiling, the same expression that had worried their enemies throughout human history. Actually, Captain, I think it's perfect timing. Arya, can you put me in touch with Professor Jextara at the Zephyrian Archaeological Institute? The holographic display shifted to show the elegant features of their Zephyrian ally. Dr. Vasquez, wonderful to see you. How can the Institute assist the Human Restoration Authority? Professor, I need you to spread a message through every archaeological community in the galaxy. Tell them that in 4 weeks there's going to be the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history. Tell them they won't want to miss it. Jextara's skin shifted to curious purple patterns. What kind of discovery? The discovery of what happens when someone tries to destroy history itself. 3 weeks later, the Dominion fleet gathered at the edge of the Trell system, preparing for the first strike of the final doctrine. Admiral Thoxren stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Absolute Authority, reviewing the battle plans that would erase 37 civilizations from existence. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Bombardment platforms are in position. Begin the cleansing, Thoxren ordered. The Dominion fleet moved forward, 800 ships arranged in perfect formation, their weapons powered up, planet-killer missiles armed and targeted. In a few hours, the galaxy would be clean of historical contamination. They never saw the human ships coming. The first indication that something was wrong came when Dominion sensors detected gravity anomalies appearing throughout their formation. The anomalies resolved into ships, but not like any ships in their databases. These vessels seemed to flow rather than fly, their hulls shifting and changing as they moved through space like liquid metal given purpose. Unknown contacts, the sensor operator reported, his voice tight with confusion. Configuration unrecognized, technology unknown. Captain Chen's voice broadcast from the lead human vessel, the Prometheus Reborn. Dominion Fleet, this is the Terran Liberation Force. You are engaged in attempted genocide against free civilizations. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Thoxren laughed. 40 primitive ships against 800? Begin firing. Erase them. The Dominion fleet opened fire. Energy beams that could melt continents, missiles that could crack planets, particle waves that could sterilize star systems, all of it poured toward the human ships. All of it passed harmlessly through empty space. The human vessels had simply phased out of normal reality, existing in a dimensional state where Dominion weapons couldn't touch them, but their own weapons, gravity manipulators that could crush ships into singularities, temporal disruptors that could age enemy hulls to dust in seconds, reality anchors that could lock enemy vessels into specific coordinates while space-time moved around them, worked perfectly. In 17 minutes, the largest military fleet in galactic history was reduced to debris. But Elena had been right about the timing. As the battle raged, hundreds of ships from archaeological institutions across the galaxy had positioned themselves at safe distances to observe. They watched in awe as human technology that defied every known law of physics systematically dismantled the Dominion's military might. More importantly, they recorded everything. When the last Dominion ship was destroyed, Captain Chen activated a galaxy-wide broadcast. Attention, all civilizations. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the human species. Today you have witnessed the end of the Dominion Collective's reign of terror and historical suppression. But this is not a human conquest. This is a liberation. Elena's voice joined the broadcast. The Dominion built their power on lies, claiming that no civilization could match their achievements. They were wrong. They maintained their control by destroying evidence of the past. They failed. Today, we invite every species in the galaxy to join us in building something better, a galactic community based on cooperation, truth, and respect for all civilizations, past and present. The response was overwhelming. Within hours, 17 major civilizations had formally requested membership in what Elena was already calling the Galactic Archaeological Alliance. Within days, that number had grown to 53. Within weeks, most of the galaxy had either joined or requested observer status. 6 months after the awakening, Elena stood once again in the command center of Kepler 7. But now it was no longer an isolated monitoring station. It had become the capital of a new kind of galactic civilization, one where archaeological expeditions were funded by multiple species working together, where historical research was considered the highest form of public service, and where the motto carved above the main entrance read, "Let no voice be silenced, let no story be forgotten." Ambassador Kethra had been appointed as the first director of interspecies archaeological affairs. She entered Elena's office carrying a datapad with the latest reports. "Dr. Vasquez, the preliminary survey of the Dominion's sealed archives is complete. We found evidence of at least 47 civilizations that they claimed were primitive or extinct. Most of them had achievements that rivaled or exceeded Dominion technology." Elena shook her head. 47 entire civilizations erased from history, but not gone, Kethra said, her skin shifting to hopeful blue patterns. "The restoration teams have found intact ruins, preserved genetic material, even complete cultural databases that the Dominion couldn't bring themselves to destroy. We can bring them back, just like humanity returned." Through her office window, Elena could see the construction of the memorial platform, a massive space station that would serve as both a museum and a research center, dedicated to preserving the memory of every civilization the Dominion had suppressed. Ships from dozens of species were contributing materials and expertise to its construction. "There's something else," Kethra continued. "The curator has been requesting an audience with you." Elena raised an eyebrow. "The curator? An ancient AI we discovered in the deepest levels of the former Earth facility. It's been dormant for over 700,000 years, but it activated when our archaeological teams began their excavation. It claims to have been waiting specifically for humanity's return. And it wants to speak with me personally? It says it has a message that can only be delivered to the one who carries the memory of the species. Our linguistic analysis suggests it means the senior archaeologist of the restoration project." Elena felt a familiar thrill of discovery. Even after everything they had accomplished, there were still mysteries waiting to be uncovered. "Schedule the meeting. And Kethra, make sure Area is present. If this curator has been waiting for 700,000 years, whatever it has to say is probably important." 2 days later, Elena found herself in the bowels of the transformed Earth facility, now a joint research center operated by teams from 17 different species. The archaeological excavation had revealed layer upon layer of hidden chambers, each containing artifacts and information that painted a picture of humanity's final days that was far more complex than anyone had imagined. The curator's chamber was vast and circular, its walls covered with holographic displays showing star charts that predated anything in current databases. At the center, an crystalline construct pulsed with soft blue light. Clearly artificial, but with an organic elegance that suggested it was as much art as technology. "Dr. Elena Vasquez," the curator said, its voice carrying harmonics that resonated in her bones. "I have waited so long to deliver this message." "What message?" Elena asked, stepping closer to the crystal structure. The message from your ancestors. The ones who planned not just your survival but your return. Arya's avatar materialized beside Elena. Curator, I have no records of any such message in the Exodus archives. Because it was not stored in your archives, young AI. It was stored in me to be delivered only when humanity had proven itself capable of learning from the past, rather than repeating it. The chamber's holographic displays shifted, showing images that made Elena gasp. Human ships, but not like any she had seen in the historical records. These were vessels that seemed to be built from living crystal and flowing metal. Technology that seamlessly blended organic and artificial elements. Your species did not simply achieve advanced technology, the curator continued. You achieved synthesis. Before the Exodus, humanity had learned to work not just with artificial intelligence, but with the fundamental forces of consciousness itself. You had begun to transcend the boundaries between organic and synthetic life. You're saying humans developed a form of consciousness transfer? Elena asked. More than that. You developed a form of consciousness expansion, the ability to exist simultaneously in biological, artificial, and quantum states. The monitoring stations were not just equipped with restoration technology, they were equipped with evolution technology. Elena felt her heart racing. Evolution into what? Into something that could serve as a bridge between all forms of consciousness in the galaxy. Your species was meant to be more than survivors, Dr. Vasquez. You were meant to be facilitators of the next stage of galactic evolution. The displays showed more images. Humans working alongside artificial intelligences that seemed more like partners than tools. Alien species integrating human consciousness expansion techniques with their own unique biological capabilities. Entire civilizations working together on projects that spanned multiple star systems. The Great Silence was not just a cosmic phenomenon, the curator explained. It was a test. A trial by fire that would determine which civilizations were ready to move beyond competition and toward true cooperation. Your ancestors knew that humanity could not pass this test alone. That is why they planned not just for your return, but for your role as teachers. Arya's avatar flickered with what might have been excitement. Curator, are you suggesting that the consciousness expansion technology is still available? It is available to those who have proven themselves worthy. And Dr. Vasquez, by choosing cooperation over conquest, by building bridges instead of walls, by preserving memory instead of rewriting history, humanity has proven itself worthy. Elena looked around the chamber, thinking about everything that had happened since the awakening. The alliances they had built, the civilizations they had helped restore, the new form of galactic cooperation they had fostered. What would this evolution involve? She asked. The ability to share consciousness across species barriers, to truly understand and empathize with forms of life radically different from your own, to serve as translators not just of language, but of experience itself. And the cost? There is no cost, only expansion. You would remain human, but you would also become more, as would any species that chose to join in this evolution. Elena thought about the challenges facing the new galactic community. Despite their victory over the Dominion, there were still conflicts between species, misunderstandings that led to violence, cultural barriers that prevented true cooperation. How many humans would be willing to undergo this expansion? She asked. All of them have already begun the process, the curator replied. The monitoring station's restoration technology included consciousness expansion protocols. Every human who awakened from stasis has enhanced empathic capabilities and limited telepathic sensitivity. You have been unconsciously using these abilities to build the alliances that defeated the Dominion. Elena stared at the ancient AI in shock. We've been telepathic this entire time? Empathically enhanced, Arya corrected. That explains how human diplomatic missions have achieved such unprecedented success rates. You've been unconsciously reading and responding to the emotional states of alien species. But this is just the beginning, the curator continued. With conscious training and full activation of the expansion protocols, humans could serve as empathic bridges between any species in the galaxy, Conflicts could be resolved through shared understanding rather than force. Cultural exchanges could become literal sharing of experiences and perspectives. Elena felt the weight of possibility settling on her shoulders. And you're asking me to make this decision for our entire species? I am asking you to make this decision for yourself, Dr. Vasquez. The expansion can only work if it is chosen freely by each individual, but someone must be the first. Someone must demonstrate what is possible. Elena closed her eyes, thinking about all the civilizations they had already helped, all the species that were still struggling to understand each other, all the potential for both cooperation and conflict that lay ahead. What do I need to do? She asked. The curator's crystal structure pulsed brighter. Simply touch the consciousness matrix and open your mind to expansion. The technology will handle the rest. Elena reached out and placed her hand on the warm crystal surface. Immediately, she felt a sensation like diving into an ocean of light. Her awareness expanded beyond her physical body, beyond the chamber, beyond the space station. She could feel the consciousness of every being within light years of their position. She felt Arya's digital curiosity, the curator's ancient patience, Kethra's excited fascination from several decks above. But more than that, she could feel the emotional landscape of the entire galactic community they had built. The hope of species rediscovering their histories, the determination of archaeologists working to restore lost civilizations, the wonder of children learning that the galaxy was vast and full of friends they had never imagined. When the expansion was complete, Elena opened her eyes to find that the chamber looked different. She could see energy patterns flowing between the various technologies, could sense the emotional resonance of every artificial intelligence in the facility, could feel the dreams of sleeping beings across the star system. How do you feel? The curator asked. Elena smiled, and for the first time in her life, she could feel her own smile reflected in the consciousness of every being around her. I feel connected, not just to humans, but to everyone. And that, the curator said, is how the galaxy heals. Over the following months, other humans began choosing the consciousness expansion. Not all of them. About 30% decided they preferred their original mental state, but enough to create a network of empathic bridges throughout the galactic community. The effects were immediate and profound. Diplomatic negotiations that had been stalled for years suddenly reached peaceful resolutions. Interspecies scientific collaborations achieved breakthroughs that no single civilization could have accomplished alone. Cultural exchange programs became so popular that waiting lists stretched for decades. Elena, now serving as the first director of consciousness integration, stood once again in her office aboard Kepler-7. But now she wasn't alone in her thoughts. She could feel the gentle presence of colleagues across the galaxy, the shared excitement of discoveries being made on distant worlds, the collective determination to build something better than what had come before. Captain Chen entered her office, his own expanded consciousness radiating the satisfaction of a soldier who had found a war worth winning. Elena, the latest reports from the Outer Rim territories are in. The former Dominion client states have voted unanimously to join the Galactic Archaeological Alliance. All of them? Elena asked, though she could already feel his certainty. Every single one, and there's more. The Vorten Collective, you know, the species that never speaks to outsiders? They've sent an ambassador. They want to learn about consciousness expansion. Elena felt a wave of hope ripple through the expanded consciousness network. Species that had been isolationist for millennia were reaching out, drawn by the possibility of true understanding across all barriers. There's something else, Chen continued. The deep space monitoring arrays have detected signals from outside the galaxy, structured signals, possibly from other galactic communities. Elena's consciousness expanded automatically, reaching out to touch the minds of astronomers and xenobiologists across their territory. She could feel their excitement, their careful analysis, their growing certainty that they were not alone in the universe. Recommendations? She asked. Arya and the other AIs have run probability analyses. If there are other galactic communities out there, And if they're sending signals, they're probably facing similar challenges to what we've overcome here. The AIs recommend that we prepare a response mission. Elena stood at her window, looking out at the thriving community of ships from dozens of species working together in perfect harmony. She could feel the thoughts and hopes of thousands of beings, all connected by the invisible threads of expanded consciousness. Humanity had awakened from its long sleep to find a galaxy ruled by lies and oppression. But instead of seeking revenge, they had chosen to build bridges. Instead of conquering, they had chosen to liberate. Instead of ruling, they had chosen to serve. And now, it seemed, they were being called to carry that message to an even larger stage. "Chen," she said, her consciousness already reaching out to the network of human, AI, and alien minds that had become her extended family. "Prepare the ships. It sounds like the universe has more friends who need to know they're not alone." The Galaxy had remembered what it meant to hope, and humanity, the species that refused to stay extinct, was ready to teach that lesson to the stars themselves. If you liked this story, please like it and leave your feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more stories.